Amen. But this is at the heart of faith, is to put aside our other masters, put aside the things we're committed to, the things our hearts are attached to, and to follow after God. Just really quickly, I've got a cool graphic. I think it's cool. I made it. Okay? This is a lemon tree. All right? This is a lemon tree. It's a lemon tree because I was in San Diego last week and I saw a lemon tree. And I was like, that's crazy. That's a lemon tree. So I made a lemon tree. Throughout this story, we're going to see that faith produces a few different things in God's people. Right? And this is the James idea, right? Faith without works is dead. This idea that faith moves. It's not this faith and works thing. It's this faith is actually active. Right? And faith makes you get up off your butt and do things. And this is what we're going to see here in this story, is that God's people are a people of faith, of people who trust God with their lives. And it's going to come out, it's going to bear fruit, it's going to manifest, not in like a new agey way, but it's going to like come from this to this in a few different ways. The first is dependence on God in prayer. We see this in the servant, active dependence upon God. I know of a few of you guys in this room right now that don't know what to do with your life next. Real life situations. I feel that all the time. Right? What we see here in the story is that God's people, people of faith, actively depend on God in prayer. Unfortunately, we're not going to get answers all the time like we see here. But there is this aspect, there is this fruit we see here of trusting in God, where I'm going to depend on you, holy God, to accomplish what you want to accomplish, what you will accomplish. I'm going to get out of your way, in a sense. Stop trying to control things. Stop trying to force things to happen. That's the first one. The second one is character. All throughout this story, in the servant and in Rebekah, we see that faith, a trust in God, an active trust in God, manifests itself in high integrity, generosity, and hospitality. This is never a convenient thing. Right? Hospitality is this idea that if somebody comes to you in need, you give of yourself, you make yourself less for their benefit. Right? And it can be very practical, like welcoming somebody into your home, giving them your food. I just heard a story this week about this guy who was on a missions trip. And he went into a Muslim village. It was very small. It was all these Christian white people. They came into this Muslim village, came to this old woman's house, and she gave them every single drop of food that she had in her house. She didn't have anything. And the guide of these missionaries said, don't you dare try to repay her, because this is what she lives for. This is that, because she's looking at this Abraham and going, oh, Abraham's a man of hospitality. What it looks like to follow after God is this idea of hospitality. Obviously, we'd agree or disagree with some things that this individual believes, but this idea of hospitality is at the heart of what it looks like to follow after God, right? To become less so that other people can become more. So being a Christian, if you are a Christian so that you can be lifted up, so that you can be popular, so that you can get gain in some specific ways, you've missed it. Right? To follow after Jesus, and side note, there's grace, because we all do that. But to be a Christian is to follow after the one who made himself nothing so that we could all be his. So that we could all experience grace. So that's the second thing, character. The third thing that this faith brings out of God's people is worship. We see this weaved all throughout the story, and we didn't really get into a lot of it, but we see all throughout the story that the servant, as he sees God answer prayers, as he sees who God is, he responds in worship. Right? We see in the story that God is intimately involved in his people's lives, in their day-to-day, in his plans and what he's doing. He's deeply faithful to his promises. He's present, he's near, and that he is worthy of praise. So you wonder, why do we sing? Right? Why do we come and sing a song or two, whether it be here or at church or whatever? That's kind of weird in our culture. We don't do, when we get to places, when you get to class, you don't sing a song to start. I guess in elementary school you sing the national anthem, but different topic. I'm not trying to get political here, but why do we do this? Why do we sing? Because To be a person of faith, to follow after this God Yahweh, is to recognize and be blown away by his goodness, by his glory, and respond in worship. And we really get to walk in what God has created us to do in this experience of, God, you are good, and I am not God. And I don't know what's right. And God, you do. You're holy, you're glorious, you're majestic, you're above all things. God's people, this heart of faith brings out of his people gratitude and thanksgiving and worship. It's the third thing. The fourth fruit of faith is this idea that we've talked about already. I will go. This really can boil down to, what is your master? Right? What ultimately has your heart captured? When Jesus comes, He comes and he lives a perfect life. He dies on the cross, and he comes back from the dead to make us new, to make us his people, to make himself the center of our hearts. Right? God's people follow after what ultimately, or just people in general, follow after what their hearts desire most. To be a person of faith is to be willing to go where God sends you. And the neat thing is, God will do amazing things when we just answer that call. I was listening to a pastor, it was in September at a conference. He's really popular with the boomers. I'd never heard of him before, but he had this saying, and it was, put your yes on the table. So put your I will go on the table and let God put it on the map. That was his thing. That was his phrase. That was his slogan. Right? Put your yes, put your I will go on the table and let God put it on the map. Right? That God will do incredible things when we follow him in faith. Last thing, I promise. The problem is we don't always do that. The problem is, as we look at that, we are a people, just collectively, who do not do that every day. We think about the character one. I am not hospitable very often. This is the point. Right? This is why we're here. This is why Reach is here, is because we are not a people who want to, or we don't believe that this communicates that we're just supposed to follow rules, follow law, right? And just be a good person, be a good Christian. What this book, what the message of the gospel communicates to us is that, hey, we choose the I will not go pretty much every day. But God is gracious, and God is kind, and God commits to us, makes covenant with us still. That he is faithful to us, and he will keep us, he will grow us, that we are a work in progress, that we are imperfect people taking steps of faith. So if you put this last slide up, Dee, I think this summarizes our chapter 24 really well. Imperfect people, saved by grace, trusting God and taking steps of faith.